Hey everyone, welcome to another video. As always, my name is Jay, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on a recent video posted on Warhammer community about the meta watch from the Tacoma Open. I've seen a lot of weird comments, and I just thought I'd put in my 2 cents, right? Why not? If you agree with me, awesome. If you disagree, awesome. Leave comments in the comment section down below of what you think. But basically, the Tacoma Open is a huge Warhammer 40K tournament each year. Almost 400 people entered this year, and it was actually won by a Custodes player. Very cool. But if you looked at the top lists, a lot of them were Eldar, some Knights, Genestealer Cult. The same 3 armies which have dominated pretty much every tournament since day 1 of this release are still continuing to dominate. And of course, one of the members of the GW team was being interviewed for this video and was discussing some future, perhaps, changes coming up in the near future. And he mentioned that in September, probably late August, early September, so we're looking at like 3 months into the new edition, there might be another FAQ or an update coming out. Now, the person specifically mentioned more like things are going to be FAQ'd or updated. I'm hoping that maybe some words are clarified. Like, I know there's a lot of debate with Knights, for example, and I play Knights, saying, you know, can they reroll all hits of 1, wounds of 1, right? Or can it's just 1 per turn? And the wording is ambiguous, and it's intentionally ambiguous, if I argue, because a hit. It doesn't say a single hit, it doesn't say all hits, a hit. So maybe they changed to 1 hit, right? So things like this should be FAQ'd in the near future, which is awesome. But the person also addressed maybe some points rebalances. Now, once again, going back to the beginning here, before the edition was even released, GW was awesome enough to release the points costs and the starting, how's it called, starting, but the indices, right? The starting indices for each army. And from a mile away, people were saying the earth was the sky's falling about Eldar. And it's been true. Eldar, whoever wrote that index and the points costs just had a lot of fun compared to the other armies. And then of course Knights, it was more of a change of survivability to Knights, as well as the changing to the rules of towering that really made Knights really thrive, in my opinion. Obviously, the points costs are really fair, and the bonding ability is awesome, but it was really the changing to towering. Now, in previous editions, they couldn't see, but everyone could see them, and they kind of took that away, and they're like, oh, now they can see you. And that scared a lot of players. So Knights were strong, and then Genestealer Cult. Once again, as I said in another video, Genestealer Cult, they took away a lot of the silly shenanigans and made the army decent. And it's one of those armies that not a lot of people play. It's probably one of the more underrepresented armies. So those who had it, like me, were super happy, but they haven't really dominated the meta yet because there aren't a lot of players compared to Eldar and, you know, Knights, where they're a lot more common than Genestealer Cult. Even if you love Genestealer Cult today, you have like 120 models to paint before you get your army on the table at 2,000 points. So it takes a while to build up that kind of army. And so, and I will leave the video in the comment section down below if you want to check out, in the description down below if you want to go check out the video as well. But they also addressed maybe a points increase or a balancing in the future, because obviously they are noticing that the same 3 armies, mostly Eldar, a good amount of Knights, and some Genestealer Cult are dominating the meta. The person actually from GW actually felt that, once again, that Genestealer Cult is the strongest army, or implied that at one point, that Genestealer Cult could be the strongest army in this edition, but the reason why it's not dominating the meta like the other 2 is just it's not represented enough, which could be the case. I still feel I really do feel Eldar is stronger than Genestealer Cult, but depending on the lists and the mission, I could see Genestealer Cult winning. You know, not every time, but a good amount as well. I think it's almost like a 50-50 split. And they also mentioned that they want to keep armies in what they call the Goldilocks zone, you know, preferably between 50 and 60%, like 55% roughly, win rates. And if you can keep all the armies among, you know, 45 to 55% win rates, that's a great situation, because that means it's a very well balanced meta. And I really do actually appreciate GW's wanting to do this. In previous editions, this is not done. Last edition is when they really started focusing on it, and it actually serves a great purpose. I love that. Because in like previous editions, if you had an army that was underrepresented or the first codex out of the gate, it was usually the curse of the first codex. Like one, it was orcs. One, it was Genestealers. It was Grey Knights. And the first army released, one of them was Dark Angels. And I have all these armies. And every time it was your first codex was like the first one released in an edition, you knew it was going to be bad for you for that whole edition. You know, it was bad. Like every army would just crush you after like 2 editions in, or 2 codices in. And I'm really happy that GW's rebalancing this. Now, the person mentioned that there might be a slight rebalance. I think actually the update in September is going to be more of a like rules update and FAQ, but they did mention a possible update of armies, and some people are already up in arms, so why are we already updating? I think it's a fantastic time to update the points. Let's try to rebalance the game right now. A few reasons. Number one, this is not that new into the code in addition. That'd be 3 months in. They would have plenty of information and data about what armies are dominating and why they're dominating. They can analyze the list and see what they're doing really well. They can look at the lists that aren't represented. You know, it's pretty easy to look at a tournament and see what armies are not being brought and figure out the reasons for it, right? And as I said, when the indices were released and the points costs were released, everyone from a mile away was saying, all right, Eldar is super strong, right? The points of Wraith Knights was stupidly cheap. They've since been increased. People said the Knights were cheap. They've been increased as well. People said Gene Circle was strong, and they've had a couple minor tweaks. Most of the tweaks so far in the game have affected either towering models, so Wraith Knights, Imperial Knights, etc., the big guys, or indirect firing units, because I don't know why GW wrote the rules the way they did, but they're exceptionally strong. You know, the fact that most of them are heavy, so if you just simply stand still, it negates the -1 to hit and the +1 to hit, balance each other out. You're firing at normal ballistic skill, and you can fire things in direct sight, right? Previous editions like Hive Guard were very strong. In this edition, Desolation Marines are going to be very strong, or at least initially. They've gotten a points increase since, which I really do appreciate. I think that's fair. And of course, Eldar. Eldar have a lot of trickery when it comes to indirect fire and strong indirect fire. The person also addresses the fact that the thing is, no matter they're going to probably increase some points costs, maybe tweak some rules. They've already tweaked, you know, Fate dice, for example, for the Eldar Codex. The problem is no matter how much you try to balance it, unless you intentionally run the Codex into the ground, what you're going to find is that certain armies are just stronger in an edition, right? This has happened in previous editions with like Drukhari or Eldari. Again, not all the time with Eldari, but Drukhari as well. Armies that are... The last several editions have really focused on shooting more than assault, right? I argue since 6th edition it's been going towards more shooting. There is some good assault right now, but it's still a lot of shooting. And I still think if you're bringing an incredibly strong shooty army versus an incredibly strong assault army, the shooty army should win more times out of not. That's my argument. And so... shooting is still favored. Eldar are incredibly maneuverable and have incredibly strong shooting. And they're an army that doesn't necessarily forfeit their strong shooting when they're being maneuverable, right? If I'm playing Space Marines, or even playing Genestealer Cult, or Tyranids, if I want to run my models across the table, it usually forfeits their shooting, right? Very few of them have assault weapons that are decent at popping things. And so if you're going to try to be maneuverable, it's usually at the cost of your shooting. Eldar, as mentioned in the video, don't have that problem. They're extremely maneuverable and extremely good at shooting. So my thoughts are that yes, they're going to try to rebalance the codex, but much like Drukhari in the previous edition, all that kept happening was, you know, they'd figure out what was being dominated in the meta, slightly increase the points cost or decrease the powerfulness of that model, and then all you would see is the next model take the place, right? They drop it down to slightly enough that the next model in line that people weren't bringing or were bringing smaller amounts just increases. And it was constantly that whack-a-mole situation. And I guess that is essentially the case. But armies like Drukhari in previous editions, you'd always see dominate. If a great general, you know, could field a variety of lists and still win, because the overall army basically could bring any model and have a competitive list, and then just which one was the top was constantly just fluctuating based on GW tweaking certain rules. I feel that that will probably be the case for Eldari. Maybe this edition, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be a strong codex regardless. And people have already complained that is it too early? I think it's the perfect time. As I mentioned, I think it would be amazing if they could not only bring a few armies down, if they could raise the other armies up. They mentioned as well, Death Guard, Blood Angels, Admech. They've not seen the love. And once again, the early reviews from a mile away, all the reviews were like, wow, these 3 armies are going to be weak. And a couple other ones as well aren't as well represented in the competitive meta. And they were like, especially Admech. Like I play Admech, so I was keeping an eye on that one. Everything is way too expensive. The rules are a little silly. Some of the models are silly too. And so I'm really hoping that they bring these models up, and they bring the ones slightly down. I'm okay with a rebalancing because if nothing's been released yet, and that's why I think this is the best time. This is the best time ever because no codex has been released. Nothing is in hard writing at the moment other than the cards, if you paid for the cards. But the cards have mostly the rules on them, and you can just adjust the rules, but no points costs have been put in hard copy. So this is why this is the best time. If they can balance the points effectively before, either Tyranids or Space Marines comes out, that'd be huge, right? It's the perfect time right now to bring the game closer to harmony if you want to, and I think it's one of the goals of GW. Obviously, it'll never be perfect, but I think they're actively trying to. That way, you can go to a tournament and see a variety of lists and a variety of armies in the top tables, which would be amazing. I would love to see a random Admech army wins a tournament, and then the next tournament maybe Custodes, then maybe Genestealer Cult, and Eldari, a variety of mix. Versus you see it like I've seen tournaments where the winning list could have been Imperial Knights, but 4 of the top 6 armies were Eldari. So, yeah, right? And also, the more different types of armies that people are bringing, the harder it is to tailor to the meta, and it becomes a fun game of, it's more sporadic and random. I like that. But as I said, I think it's a great thing. I definitely think that, armies like Blood Angels, Death Guard, Admech need to be raised. I do think the more competitive armies need to be slightly lowered. I just don't know how they're going to do it effectively. And as they did mention, it could be through some rules. They're trying to look at rules again. They already nerfed Fate Dice. I would be okay, for example, if Genestealer Cult, it was for the baseline troops on a 2+ they come back, not a guaranteed they come back regardless. I think that would be a great rule. Just, it puts in the randomness that they might just disappear off the table. Cool. And then maybe the other ones, I don't know, 5-up. I don't know, because it seems like it's a very powerful dynamic right now, and it's too powerful. But we'll see. But as I can see them doing something with that too. But what do you think? What do you think of this video? I'll leave the actual video in the description down below. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's a good time to rebalance? Do you like the idea of a rebalancing? What armies do you think need to be raised? What armies do you think need to be lowered? Is the meta broken at the moment? Is the sky falling? I don't know. I haven't faced Eldar yet, so I haven't seen that. And yet we really haven't seen a lot of the triple Wraith Knight lists that we thought we'd see originally. There were a couple, but since the point costs went up, I don't think that's going to be as likely. But they're just going to bring a lot of other things with indirect fire. So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the meta? What are your thoughts on the video? Please leave comments in the comment section down below. Let's create a discussion, and let's keep going. As I said, I want to just keep making videos and talking and engaging with the community about the rules. I'm excited about this edition. I really like the focus on trying to balance more. I like this, that it's going to be kind of a living system, and it's going to be fun. I think that you're going to see the competitive armies just fluctuate throughout the edition, which is awesome, and I just want to go and play in a tournament and have a good time. Really, that's all I care about too, is having a great time, chilling with people. So stay tuned for more videos as always. Please leave a comment in the comment section of what you think. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so, and like the video. So next time, this is Jason. Happy painting.